Okay, thank you very much. Regarding a question from Sandeep, is the training is based on 10.1? No, Sandeep. Whatever training we are doing is 10.0 training, not 10.1. Since 10.1 is still not a stabilizer product and it doesn't have consolidation functionalities, and the usage is also very limited with respect to the 10.1 because of its limited capabilities and also the additional cost required to have HANA as a backend database. So we are not concentrating on 10.1 at all. The present training class is on 10, which covers both planning as well as consolidation. Okay, Sandeep. Yeah, VU has having a question. I have a question about client-side software. Can we download the Excel plugin for BPC? Yes, you can download it from SAP download basket. You can bring it and you can download it from there. You can do that. Yeah, this training is based on BPC. BPC 10, you can install it on HANA or you can install it on normal native BW. It doesn't matter. So if it is 10.1, the mandatory requirement is HANA. But BPC 10, it can be installed on any of the systems. For SAP Service Market, you need to have download rights to download that software. Without download rights, you cannot do anything. It is if you are working for a client, the client will have a user ID with download capabilities. Then you can download it. Sandeep, that's what I am saying. If the 10 you are installing on HANA database or you are installing on a native database, it doesn't matter. So from functionality perspective, there is no difference if your backend is HANA database or normal database. Only the execution of logic will be much quicker than your native BW system. That's the only difference with respect to 10. Mitesh, because others are typing the question, that is why I am reading the question and I am answering it to you. The client software and all your basis consultant will be having, so they will be having the rights to download and everything. We will not be having any rights given for us to download. Okay, coming to session 1, as we discussed in our yesterday's demo class, with this link, you can log in into the BPC system. Once you log in with the credential provided by basis consultant to you, you will be logging into this home screen. In this home screen, this is the user ID with which you are logging in, and this is the log off button. And this is the home page which will be available for the end user. So when we are discussing each of the activity, we will discuss each one in detail. And then this is the launch section from which you can launch it to the Microsoft Office, that is Excel, Word and PowerPoint. And there is another section called Planning and Consolidation Administration. This is nothing but our customization workbench. This is similar to your customization workbench if you are working in ECC system. So all our customizations happens in the administrative tab. And there is something called environment. What is environment means? Suppose when you are logging into your ECC system, there will be a client which is the highest level in the SAP system. Similar to client, in BPC we call it as environment. So whenever we are logging in, we will be logging into a particular environment and then we will be working on. So whenever you are logging into your ECC, you will be logging into a particular client. Similarly here, you will be logging into a particular environment. Anyone is having audio issues? If you are using microphone, I think you have to set your audio to telephone. Okay, thank you. And when you are logging in for the first time, when you are logging in the first time in the client environment, the only environment that will be available is the environmental shell. This is something like your 1000 company code if you are working in your ECC FI system. Similar to that, this is the system defined environmental shell by SAP, and you can copy this environment and create your own environment like that how I have created. So this is a copied version of the existing environmental shell, and then once you copy it from here, you can do whatever changes, whatever customization in the copied one. Don't touch the system provided environmental shell, because at any point of time if there is any problem happening in your customizations, you can delete this and you can recopy from the SAP as a vanilla version, and you can do the modifications and then changes in the new created environmental shell. So first step when you are logging into the BPC system in client environment is you will be logging into the environmental shell which is provided by SAP, and then you have to use copy option in order to copy the environmental shell and create your own environment. So first time when you logged in, you will be able to see which environment you logged in from here. So the copy option is available in your first time when you're logging in. Go to Planning and Consolidation Administration. The administration is the section where all our customizations will be happening. Go to Manage All Environments. Then select the environmental shell. There is something called Copy. So press that and give the environment name. I am just giving for some example. So when you are copying, you need not select data in models because data will be entered based on your client requirement. You can keep web documents and documents if you require, or you can leave it blank and then press copy option. I think they have created maximum number it has reached. So once you copy, you can able to copy it, but here the maximum number has been reached, so that we'll ask the basis team to increase the number of environments for a particular instance of the BPC server. But when you copy it, automatically it will be created as an environment like this, and once it is created like this, you have to select that particular environment shell and you have to log in into that particular environmental shell. When you copy it, you have an option to change the status of the environment from online to offline and offline to online. This feature is required when we are doing the transportation. At that time, we will discuss what is the requirement to have offline and online features. And then you can change the description of the environment. This is the description which I have provided. And if you select this, it will show which user has been logged in at what time and what module it has been logged in. All those details, user activity details, will be available. Set template version means whenever we are working for the first time, we will be having one as a template version. Whenever you are going for any additional template creation, then you can set the template version to 2 so that the new enhancements will be happening in the second version if you want to capture it different template wise. Otherwise, you can update the same things in the version 1 itself. Yes, when you are doing your practice, you have to first time when you are doing your practice, either you can copy my environmental shell, which is already preloaded with the logics and all, or because we are using a training environment, you can copy mine, but in live scenario, you will be copying from environmental shell. So when you are working for the first time, copy my environmental shell and do whatever training related exercises and preparation in your own environmental shell. Don't touch or don't edit this Krishna_2014, because we have done a lot of developments in that, otherwise it will have some problems. So just copy it and use it according to your requirement. Yeah, Raj is having a question. How I missed on version, how 1 and 2 are different. See, this is like just templates, whatever you are developing, that will be stored in default version 1. If you want to store it in a different version, you can set it as 2, and only if you select version 2, then only version 2 templates will be available. If you select version 1 templates will be available. But generally, people will be doing everything in version 1 in order to have consistency. So this is with respect to the creation of the environment and changing the description and all. Once you created your own environment, go back to your administration screen, go to your home, click on the environment which you have logged in. In your live environment, it will be environmental shell. Click on that, press continue. Then select the environment which you have created. I am just selecting, for our understanding purposes, Krishna_2015. So with this, what I am doing, I am connecting it from Krishna_2000 to Krishna_2015. So I am moving to a different environmental shell. So when you are working in live environment, generally there will be only one environment that will be created for the entire client, which environment holds both planning as well as consolidation applications inside the environment. So in your client place, when you will see one environmental shell and one more environment which is responsible with your client naming convention, that environmental shell. Only two environmental shell you will be able to see in your client environment. So I am going back to Krishna_2014. So whenever you want to switch, you have to select that and select whichever environment you want to log in, so that you will be logged in it that particular environment. We can do it directly from here, or go to planning and consolidation administration screen, go to change environment, select the environment, and you can be logged into that particular environment. So either we can do it from home screen or through administration screen through change management. If you want to copy, you have to use the manage environment option. Then select the environmental shell, use the copy option. So this is the first thing what we will be doing when we are working in the live environment, creation of our own environment and logging into that particular environment. Once we logged into the created environment by us, then we can go to the administration screen, and then if you see here, there is something called dimensions and there is something called models. These are the basic master data, we can call it, in the BPC system. Dimensions are nothing but info objects in your BW system. If somebody is having BW knowledge, this is similar to your info objects. Models are nothing but your info cube. And in in BW terminology, the environment is equivalent to info area. So it is similar to client in ECC. In BW terminology, it is equals to info area, and models it will be called as info cubes, and dimensions it is called info objects. So whenever we are creating from the front end, system will automatically create either the cube or info object or info area automatically in the backend system. We need not work in the backend BW system in order to enable all these things. So to understand that, we'll just log in into the backend BW system and we'll see how this environment is created and how these dimensions and models are created in the backend system. Dimitri is having a question. Every single BPC object generated in the backend in BW will start with CPMB. Yeah, BPC related objects which you have created from the front end will start with CPMB. You are right. I'm going to show you that one only. So backend BW system, and Humphrey is having a question. What corresponds to info area? Info area is nothing but your environment. I'll show you that also once I log in into the BW screen. So once you log in into the BW screen, the first and foremost transaction code will be logging in RSA1. So when you log into the RSA1, and if you see the info provider section, in the left hand side modeling pane, you will see BPC separate naming convention / CPMB. And whatever the BW objects you are generating, that will be with 0 BW, 0 BW TCT, 0 ESM, all those things are different. But whatever the BPC, it will be starting with /CPMB /BPC under business planning and consolidation head. Now, as I said, if you see, this is the info area, Krishna_2014. So if you see here, it is starting with CPMB Krishna_2014, which is the info area, which is equivalent to, if you remember, whatever we are talking here is my environment name Krishna_2014. So environment equal to info area in your backend BW system. And whatever here I am not creating, system is automatically creating once you create from the front end. Now if you go inside, I am having, these are called cubes. What I said, cube is nothing but models. So go to administration, select models. Now if you see here, there is something called CONS_December, consolidation, EXP_plan. If you go to backend, CONS_December, consolidation, EXPN_plan. So these are the models which are getting created in the backend as a BW cube. So whenever you enter some data in the front end, automatically data will be stored in your backend BPC cubes. As previously in my demo class I said, to identify the BPC cubes will be with naming convention /CPMB. This is the notation used for BPC. And I'm just closing it to show you your normal BW cubes. So if you normally log into your BW cube, see, this is a BW cube which I have created, ZBPC BW. So this is your normal BW area, and this is your BPC related area, which system automatically creates the naming convention and everything. You need not worry about the naming convention, system automatically creates it. And we discussed the info objects. These are the info objects in the backend BW system. So from the front end, when we create an info object, it will be created as a backend info object. Now if you see here in the dimensions, which is equivalent to info objects, I am having account, audit trail, category. If you go to the backend, account, audit trail, category, cost center, all these things are part of my dimensions, which are nothing but info objects. Now inside the info object, I am having attributes, hierarchies and text. So if I go inside the account dimension, if you see there is a hierarchy which is equivalent to your BW hierarchy in the hierarchy section, and there is attributes. Attributes are nothing but properties in BPC. Properties are nothing but columns, which is shown here. We'll discuss in detail what each one will does, but for initial understanding, these are called properties. In your BW system, these are called attributes with which you will be storing the additional information, and this is called hierarchy. And text is nothing but the description which you are storing here, that will be stored as text objects. Okay, so in our yesterday's demo, somebody is asking if we are doing full optimization after certain period of time, after data reaches certain level which is set by your basis consultant, if you do the full optimization, system will change the naming convention of the cube. So if you are linking any any BO dashboards to this particular cube, then you will have a problem. That is why SAP has automatically creating one more multi-provider. So when you want to link it as a source to any of your BO objects or your BEX queries, link this multi-provider rather than the cube, so that the naming convention will remain as it is. That is why SAP always suggests use your multi-provider as a source when you are linking it to other modules like BO or BEX. But if you are directly working in BPC, even though system changes the technical name, after changing of the technical name also, system will automatically reroute in the BPC, and whatever you are doing from the front end, back end it will be storing in the same queue. You will not be aware of what are the changes backside it is happening. So from BPC perspective, it will not have any effect, but if you are taking this source as a source information for any of the other systems, then better to use the multi-provider rather than the cube name. Sandeep is having a question, attributes, how do we assign? Sandeep, when I am going into the dimension part, I will discuss how to add attributes from the BPC front end. Once we do addition from the front end, system automatically creates from the back end perspective. We need not work on the back end at all. System will automatically create the multi-provider. See, whatever I am saying here in the back end, all the things are created by the system automatically. We will not touch the BW system architecture at all. All the CPMB notations, the cube, the dimension or info object, multi-provider, everything will be created by the system automatically. That also we will see once I complete this area. I will create one dimension from the front end, and then we will see how it is reflecting in the back end and all. Dimitri is having a question. This means you cannot use transformation to load from BW cube into BPC cube, as BPC technical name can change. No, BW cube to BPC cube, we are not using this technical name. Instead, we are using, here we are linking it through a DM package from the BPC, not directly like your BW transformations. We will be doing BPC transformations where we will be linking it. So whenever there is a change, system automatically takes care because we are loading from the front-end BPC system, not from the back-end. So system automatically takes care about that package. Yes, you are right, Dimitri. DM packages access BW cube data to load into BPC. It is not only cube data, it is for master data from InfoObject and also the hierarchy from the InfoObject. Those things also we will cover in our training classes. So okay, this is the basic architecture with which the BPC has been developed. So since BW is its backend, whatever anything we are discussing from the front end, it will be created as backend cubes and info objects automatically by the BPC system. So one should not be aware of BW system in order to work on the BPC system because it is done automatically by the BW system. So till now, if you are having any doubts, please let me know because these first few classes are very, very important. These are the major basic information we need to understand thoroughly in order to understand the BPC concept more clearly. So if you have any small question also, please let me know so that we'll discuss and then we'll move on to the next section. Shekhar is having a question. What is the role of BW consultant for BPC project implementation? In our demo class, as we discussed yesterday, the BW consultant major role will be the BPC technical activities like BPC template creation, BPF, work status, all those things, along with your BW data loads from BW to BPC system. They require certain transformations. If there is any requirement to provide certain routines required, then you need to work on those routines in order to enable the data into the BPC related format. So those kind of requirements towards technical aspects will be required from a BW consultant perspective. So who should have a BPC knowledge with respect to other aspects like reporting, work status, BPF creation, some scripting, security part creation, all these things will be technical consultant job who along with the normal BW work will do the BPC related work also. And sometimes what happens is in some projects due to cost constraints from ECC to BW also the data load requirements will be held by the BPC teams. So in those cases, if you are already having a BW knowledge to activate data sources from ECC and then bring the data to the BW cube, and from BW to BPC, if you know the full cycle, then you will be having much more weightage compared to the other people with BPC knowledge. So I have seen some projects due to cost constraints, they are keeping one BW consultant who can do from ECC to BW also, and BW to BPC anyway it is BPC consultant job. So in that way also a BW consultant with BPC knowledge will be very helpful for the project. Any other questions? Okay. So in BPC, first after creation of environment, these are called dimensions. There is no, Humphrey is having a question, how many dimensions get copied normally? See, there is no number of dimensions, but when you copy, system provides the basic type of dimensions as copy in your environmental shell. After that, whatever you are creating, that is according to your requirement, you can keep on creating. This is a library which can be shared across the models. This is similar to your info objects you keep on creating in BW, but for cube requirement purposes, there will be certain mandatory info objects required and additional info objects you will be creating as per your own requirement. Similar to that architecture, BPC also, there will be library of dimensions. You can have 20, 30 library of dimensions. Out of that, whichever is required for particular model, we'll take those dimensions from the dimension library which we have created here. So when it comes to BPC system, SAP has predefined the type of dimension. What is the requirement to define the type is, once you select this particular type of dimension when you're creating your dimension, automatically certain mandatory properties will be copied to that particular dimension. Whether you maintain it or not, certain mandatory properties will get copied, which will be used as a technical development from the back end. So it takes the required properties from the back-end system in order to work on the BPC system. That is why SAP has given the type of dimension. So for each type of dimension, it has certain mandatory properties that will get copied when you create a new dimension. Either you can create a new dimension or you can use the existing dimension for the type, because the type will be standard, so you can use the existing dimensions. Or some clients will say that I don't want to use the existing. You can copy, select this, and you can copy this and create your own naming convention. Suppose he doesn't want it as account, he want it as ACC, and suppose if client name is ABC. I'm just giving an example. So like this, if we want to have, then he will copy the existing ones and he will create a new dimension with the same type, so that whatever is the architecture that is available for account related dimension, all that architecture will be copied to this new dimension with the different naming convention. Or he can delete the existing master data in the account and he can add his own master data into the account for his working purposes. Like account is nothing but your GL account, chart of accounts. So if your client is having a different chart of accounts, then he can directly go inside. In the initial stage there will not be any data, so he can select and he can delete the entire master data and he can copy his own master data and he can process the dimension. So all those things can be possible, or else he can create a new one. Like this, he can select and delete. Once he delete, you can save and process. Save means it is just saving in the front end. It is not saving in the back end. Save and process means saving presently and back end also it is getting stored. I am just pressing save. So if I just close this, now if you see there is an orange color button. If you see the status information, it is showing some members of the dimension need to be processed. So once you process it, then only it will be shown as green and it will be available for the usage. If it is in the yellow color, you cannot use it. There might be some inconsistency errors happens when you are using this dimension in your model and you are loading some data. So always make sure that your dimensions are in green color so that you will process it. So in order to do the process, you have to use save and process. So when you want to update the master data, there are two ways of updating. One is through manual update directly from this section. And second is you can load it from your BW InfoObject, which is an automated process. Once a GL account is created in your ECC, from ECC to BW through normal updates, it will happen. From BW to BPC, it will be the BPC consultant job to update from BW to BPC. So that is an automated process, you need not maintain. So at present we will be seeing the manual process. Later on, when we are discussing on the data manager section, we will discuss how to do the BW InfoObject load for the master data. And as I said, when you are copying it, it will copy These are the what you call properties or attributes that will get copied. Out of these attributes, there are some attributes which are mandatory. Like account, say I'll just put this as, say, advertising. Okay. So these are mandatory. Is account type. Which account type it belongs to. In SAP, based on the account type, your sign will be decided whether it is a plus or minus. It is normal, FI related also. In FI also, when you are creating your GL account, you will be specifying lot of parameters. Like that same way, in BPC also you have to provide the parameters. Suppose I am putting it as expense. And rate type. Rate type is nothing but which rate is used to convert this expense GL account. So when you are working in a multi-folded environment, you want to have your currency conversions are also happening and reporting to the parent company at a group currency level. At that point of time, what is the exchange rate between local currency and group currency will be determined by the rate type. There will be average rate, closing rate. Based on your accounting standards, expenses will be taken at average rate, balance sheet accounts at closing rate, and investment and fixed assets will be at historical rate. That based upon your accounting standards and client requirement, you can keep on the rate type. So these are the mandatory properties which needs to be updated other than other properties which are available here. Once you update it, you put save and process. Now I have dimension has been processed. Now you close it and go back. Now see, it is showing as green. And Dimitri is having a question, what scenario I will be using front end save and not in the back end. Sometimes what happens is I will be updating some master data and I don't know whether the master data which I have updated is correct. I want some clarification from my manager also. So, but I don't want to lose whatever I have typed out. So I'll just save it. So it will be saved in the front end. Once I get a confirmation from my manager, if everything is okay, I'll directly go and process it. If there is minor change required, I'll do those minor changes and I will process it so that it will store in the back end also. Got it, Dimitri? Okay. And Humphrey is having a question. What is scaling? Scaling is a system defined property because we are using the Excel as a front end. So whenever there is a length of the characters increases a certain limit, automatically the column width will be adjusted using the scaling property. If you are not mentioning anything, system will automatically take it as scaling as Y. So whenever that field appears, based on the length, automatically your column width also will change based on the, column width will change based on the property. So by default it is blank means Y. Mandatory settings for master data, we cannot define these are the mandatory properties that by experience you need to get the mandatory properties. But when we are discussing each one of the dimension, at that time we will see how certain minimum dimensions are mandatory, other dimensions are it's only for information purposes. Certain times for logic triggering you need to have. Some of the main properties which are used mainly in the business rules. Unlike your ECCS and BCS, whatever properties we are using, that will be major part in business rule creation in consolidation. So those things we will discuss when we are discussing on the consolidation part. So with respect to master data dimensions and attributes, that comes by experience after doing projects and after going through all the training classes, we will get what are all the important things towards planning. Some properties might be used in consolidation, some are just for information purposes. Those things we will get to know one by one, but not at the initial stage itself.